All right, sixth grade, we're going to round up our last section of Earth and resources. We've already talked about some of the vocabulary words. We went over what are some of the Earth's resources. That was 2 videos ago. Where do we get that energy from, and what are our energy needs? We talked about world energy. Okay, but now we want to really focus on that fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are important to us, but they're limited. They're gonna run out. So let's try to understand where fossil fuels come from and what happened to them. Okay, let's come over here. So let's try to read this. Most fossil fuels deposits come from plants that lived during the Carboniferous period. Some coal deposits have been traced to the Cretaceous period during the time of the T-Rex, but over time, dead plants and algae settled at the bottom of the ocean floor. This is then covered by silt and sand. So in that time frame, the Carboniferous, if you look over here, all the way down to the Cretaceous, that's when a lot of our fossil fuels are being formed. There wasn't much there to decompose it, so they just kind of built up. The deposits were buried deeper and deeper, and with a lot of soil, because they're in the oceans, a lot of soil building up, putting more and more pressure on them, they changed into oil. They started to liquefy, into oil. Solar energy has been then locked into the coal, because remember, these are plants that got their energy from the sun, is now locked into the coal, oil, and gas, and thus we extract it. So the fossil fuels, we're getting the energy from the sun. It's just really good at storing the energy for us. Okay, now oil and gas is extracted because we got to find it now. Now over here we found some of the deposits we'll talk about in a second, but oil and gas is extracted by drilling deep below the Earth's surface. Okay, on all those layers that we're putting pressure onto it. Once we get into the area where we can find it, we can find the oil, we can find the gas, or we can actually find the coal that we can then dig up and use and burn for our energy. Okay, now there are 3 major forms of fossil fuels. Okay, you have coal, you have gas, and you have oil. Okay, and here are some of the places that do a lot of the reserves. So the U.S. is the world leader in known coal reserves. The U.S. has a lot of coal, enough to last almost 300 years. Okay, about 90% of the coal produced is used to generate electricity. Coal generates about half the electricity that we use in the United States. All right, we have Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky. In 8th grade, you guys are going to read a book about a coal mine company in West Virginia with the Rocket Boys. We also have gas, natural gas, which is, and we have oil deposits that are there. Now we're going to use residential, commercial, and electricity. Most of this, notice, most of our fossil fuels are used for transportation. That's our oil consumption. 25% is for industry. Okay, only 6% is for residential use, and 1% is to produce electricity. So most of our oil is being used for transportation. Petroleum is the leading source of energy used in the United States at 38%. Coal and natural gas provide 22% of the energy needs. Now, when we get oil, we use a lot of it. We use all the parts of it. We don't have much waste. You want to talk about recycling and reusing and just never having any waste come from it? When we get these oil reserves, we have almost no waste. Okay? We use so much of it, from asphalt, jet fuel, propane. We're going to show a picture down a little lower about all of it. Okay? And then gas. At first, we used to just burn the gas off, and we figured, hey, we can actually, if we can burn it, we can use it. And now we actually use the gas for a lot of things. The natural gas for industries, use it for a big chunk of it. We do use some gas for transportation, as well as production of electricity. Some of you guys have gas stoves that are used in your residential and commercial areas to help produce heat. Now, let's go over some of these impacts. The impacts of using fossil fuels, although they did come from the sun and they're beautiful things to have, okay, the heat produced from burning fossil fuels drives the turbines that generate electricity, right? So we're going to burn this heat. But oil products like petroleum, kerosene, and diesel fuels are useful for transportation. Electricity can be used by renewable means, such as wind and water. But the heat produced from burning fossil fuels contributes to global warming. That's the problem. We're producing heat, and that's going to create global warming. Also, some of the chemicals that we use give us acid rain. Mining drills for fossil fuels is very expensive. You got to dig down deep, and you have to be able to deal with that. And it's really expensive. That's why some of our oils cost a lot. Production, transport, and use of fossil fuels is polluting the land and water. Renewable technologies are quite expensive, so 85% of electricity in, let's say, the United Kingdom is still generated by fossil fuels, because trying to use this renewable resources, we haven't got that price down yet. Now, we already talked about how fossil fuels were formed. Okay, over time, we had these trees and stuff die. When they died, they started to get plunked down at the bottom. The pressure started to build up, putting high pressure until it finally turns into coal or oil or natural gas. Okay. Now, we also can show you some more pictures about the natural gas formation that's happening in the oil and the oceans and stuff. But let's talk about where really we're getting this from. Here's a vat of oil. We're going to get this crude oil that comes in. And you can see, okay, certain parts of it, don't worry about like the C1, C4, or anything like that. But we use all parts of it. We use the lighter parts for liquefied petroleum gas. We actually trap the gas and we use it to heat. We use other parts for it for chemicals. We use it for petroleum vehicles. A little higher quality, the paraffin oils are going to be used for jet fuel. Then we have diesel fuel that comes down a little bit later. So these are all different thicknesses of the oil. The oil comes in different thicknesses, not one, and each thickness gives us a different style of fuel that we can use. Some of them, when they get a little thicker, produce lubricating oils and waxes and polish. Then you get this really strong fuel for fuel of ships and factories and central heating systems. Okay, all the way down to the waste, which normally down here is so thick and so things. They first started throwing away, and they said, hey, we can still use that. They turned that into asphalts, into making roofing and stuff like that. They use almost all the oil that comes out. Now, coal mining is a problem. Okay, coal mining, they find these layers of coal, and you can see these black stripes that come around, and you have these coal mines. But let's look down here in this shaft mine. Okay, so the shaft mine's right here. Here, you're digging part of the ground away. And they dig. They got to leave these little pillars there to keep the ground up. But what happens if one of these pillars collapsed? You could have an entire collapse of your mountain come down. So a shaft mine or a slope mine, as you're digging part of the ground away, it's like digging underneath yourself. You might actually fall into the hole that you're digging. Okay, but that's where the coal is. Okay, you have some people that do area mines where they just basically dig the mountain away, and they get the coal to one area and they have this rock spill to another area or spoil. Okay, some people do these called mountaintop minings. A lot of the coal's found at the top of the mountain, so they just chop the top of the mountain off. Okay, the problem is, look at all this extra stuff. They have this rocky spill and this stuff. Sometimes all that extra debris that's not solidified in rock anymore can do some problems. What happens is this rock spill starts to flow down. This little red thing breaks. That entire area will flow down. They've had entire cities taken away from that destruction of the mountaintop mining. So although it gives us a lot of energy, and we do need some of that energy for our resources, I mean, right now, I think you guys are using it for distance learning. Everybody's on their devices. There are some negative effects of us having that electricity. We do need to find a new way of producing electricity to help us out. So, hope that was helpful. We'll talk more about this in our Zoom class. This is Mr. Hale signing off. KD2 LPM for K2 GSG. Have a good day, guys.